Aloha. We warmly welcome you again to our Sunday online service. We hope you have been watching, listening, and reflecting on the weekly messages we broadcast here on YouTube in lieu of the regular Sunday services because of COVID-19. Just as the Buddha's light of wisdom and compassion is boundless and cannot be obstructed, so does the teaching, which is timeless and without hindrance, can reach into our hearts and minds through many ways. But to listen, hear, and understand the teaching is not enough. It has to be put in practice too, in our daily lives, to make it relevant and become an effective tool of spiritual transformation that is one of the steps in our journey of awakening and rebirth in the Pure Land.
Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Lord.
let's join our hands together in Gasho. When the time comes for Shinjin, indestructible as diamond, to become settled, Amida grasps and protects us with compassionate light, so that we part forever from birth and death. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Good morning. Thank you and welcome again to this Sunday online service of the Hompohong Ganji Hawaii Betsuin. It has been a busy beginning of this month nationwide with the recently held elections. A new president of this country has been declared, but unfortunately, the issue is still not completely resolved. We hope that the politicians will set aside their differences, accept reality, and focus on doing their jobs which they have chosen to do when they enter the world of politics. Our temple services, however, are continuing, although on a limited basis because of the current ongoing pandemic. Funerals and memorial services are being held either in person or via virtual Zoom. Despite the many years I have been doing funerals, I still view it as something that I would rather not do on a regular basis. When I do pre-cremations, funerals, and interments, I encounter a familiar aspect of reality of human life, and that is death. Once again, I feel like I am back in the healthcare profession, where death is the ultimate enemy that we are constantly fighting against. As much as modern medical knowledge and technology would allow, medical professionals keep people alive and try to defeat death, for it does not require any religious belief to understand that human life is very precious and fragile. Whether one believes in a religion or not, every person likes to live, and death is something that is not pleasant and to be avoided at all cost. There is fear, the fear of the unknown, of what lies beyond this life we are living at the moment. We grieve during the loss of our loved ones, not only because we are no longer with a person or persons we love, but also encountering death serves as a painful reminder of our own mortality, that someday we too will go the same way and cease to exist. Unless we have the sufficient faith in our religious beliefs, most of us avoid talking about death, let alone think about it. It is out of ignorance, of not knowing what's on the other side, that evokes fear and anxiety about dying. Nobody has died and come back to describe the realm of the afterlife. Or is that really the case? Several years ago, when I was serving at Makawao Honganji in Maui, one temple member offered to lend me a book entitled Dying to Be Me. The author is a woman named Anita Murjani. And in this book, the author relates how, after fighting cancer for almost 4 years, her body began shutting down, overwhelmed by the malignant cells spreading to her system. As her organs failed, she entered into an extraordinary state called near-death experience, where she realized her inherent worth and the actual cause of her disease. She slipped into a comatose state, but upon regaining consciousness, Anita found that her condition had improved so rapidly that she was released from the hospital within weeks, without a trace of cancer in her body. It seems like an incredible story of miracle healing, but I am more interested in the part where she described her near-death experience while in the hospital for cancer treatment. What is a near-death experience, by the way? A near-death experience, or the abbreviated as NDE, refers to personal experiences associated with impending death, encompassing multiple possible sensations, including detachment from the body, feelings of levitation, total serenity, security, warmth, the experience of absolute dissolution, and the presence of a light. These phenomena are usually reported after an individual has been pronounced clinically dead or has been very close to death. Usually these are people whose vital signs or functions like heartbeat, breathing, and brain activity have stopped, but somehow after resuscitation attempts, they come back to life and describe their experience while being resuscitated. Most, although not all, near-death experiences share common traits. These common traits include the person describing entering a tunnel of intense, pure, bright light, seeing his past departed loved ones or spirits and communicating with them, usually telling the dying person to go back, that it's not yet his time to die. Others report floating out of their bodies while in the operating or emergency room. This is called an out-of-body experience, or OBE in medical jargon. And seeing all the doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals working frantically to revive them, to bring them back to life. Medical science still cannot explain precisely why some people who have been dead or revived undergo this experience of near death. One of the theories is that when a person's heartbeat or heart stops, blood flow to the brain stops and the brain gets deprived of oxygen, which then releases chemicals and hormones in response that act as drugs, and induce hallucinations. The dead or dying person may not have been totally dead, and these hormones or chemicals released by the brain produce that sensation of seeing bright lights, leaving one's own body, seeing angels, gods, Buddhas, or other spiritual beings, and so on. But this theory cannot explain why, in documented cases, people who died and came back to life were able to describe details of what the doctors and nurses were doing and saying during the resuscitation attempt. After being revived, they were able to identify faces and uniforms of people whom they have never met before in their lives. In one incident of a near-death experience, a patient who was revived asked his nurse for his dentures, which she took off while they were resuscitating him. When the nurse told him she forgot where she placed it, the patient told her exactly which drawer in his room where she had placed the dentures. An accurate guess? Perhaps, except that the nurse has never been assigned to take care of that patient before, and he was able to identify her as exactly the one who removed his dentures while being resuscitated. If a near-death experience is just hallucinations, then the person who undergoes this hallucination should not be able to describe anything accurately. while in a death-like state. Most of the documented cases of near-death experience report that the ones who experience it, this near-death experience, say that while entering the tunnel of bright light, there was no fear, no pain, no discomfort, and everything was a feeling of warmth and peace. However, a small percentage of the documented cases report of going into dark, abysmal places, seeing malevolent beings, feeling fear, discomfort, and seeing what they describe as hell. It is rather unfortunate that in my almost 30 years experience working as a nurse, at times in the ICU or the cardiac unit, and have participated in numerous attempts of resuscitating dying patients, I have never encountered a patient who was successfully revived that reported a near-death experience. Usually, after restarting their hearts back to beating regularly, patients stay in a coma for a brief period. They wake up and just tell us that they do not remember anything of their coming very close to real clinical death. It would have been an interesting field of further study if I had actually encountered a person who literally came back from the dead. Whether the experience of near death was pleasant and peaceful, or fearsome and unpleasant, one thing in common happened to those who had this near-death experience. They were all transformed spiritually in one way or another. People who previously did not believe in any religion found themselves accepting religion. People who were already religious when they encountered near death even became more devout in their beliefs. People who were previously self-centered and uncaring now became compassionate and considerate of others. People who once feared death now accept it. It is perhaps because they have had a unique experience of dying and coming back to life, and dying was a rather peaceful, painless, and fearless experience that they have undergone, rather than the fearsome, painful, and anxious experience that they had imagined all their lives. I am sorry to sound so pessimistic, talking about a subject that nobody wants to hear. But Shakyamuni Buddha actually taught that to meditate on death is not becoming pessimistic about it, but rather to see it as a natural part of the cycle of life in samsara, or the world of delusion and ignorance. Our physical bodies are compounded, created out of material things in the universe, and such are subject to the laws of impermanence. But the consciousness in us that carries on to the next life continues until we free ourselves from the bondage of birth and death through enlightenment and attainment of Buddhahood. The purpose of the Buddha's teaching on death is not to instill fear for this natural part of the process of living, but rather the opposite way, to reduce our fear of it out of ignorance. Just as Shakyamuni Buddha died a natural death of his physical body to reach final enlightenment or parinirvana, so will the death of our physical body enable us to reach the realm of peace, tranquility, and joy that is Amida Buddha's Pure Land. However, I wouldn't want to undergo the experience of near death to find out what the other side of reality is like. I still fear death. I don't want to think about it or talk about it. It is my blind passion, or my bon no, to fear and to loathe death. And at this point in my spiritual journey in life, I haven't rid myself of that fear. But as a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, I do not try to deny death as an inseparable part of life. It will happen to me someday. That is 100% sure. It is guaranteed to happen to anyone. Only the time of death is not assured. Given that death is a dark reality that can happen to me at any time in my life, it strengthens my resolve to entrust myself to the promise of Amida Buddha's primal vow that assures me of rebirth in a realm where death no longer exists. It requires a leap of faith to be able to completely entrust in the workings of the primal vow. That entrusting heart of faith, or Shinjin, is the decisive cause for our birth in the Pure Land, according to Shinran Shonin. There is no other way to conquer death, for it cannot be defeated outside the realm of enlightenment. In the Pure Land, death ceases to be an enemy to conquer. It no longer exists in the Pure Land, for the Pure Land is the realm of the Buddha, of limitless light and life. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo No, Namo No, Namo No, Namo No. Thank you very much for tuning in today to our online Sunday service. We hope you are able to listen and understand well today's Dharma message and find it meaningful or useful in your daily lives. The Dharma sometimes is not easy to understand right away. Some terms and concepts may require further explanation, but it is important for us to know and understand the Buddha's teaching. The ministers of the Hongkong Mission of Hawaii and Betsuin are always available by telephone for those of you who would like to know more about the teachings, clarifications, or even just a friendly chat to provide for your spiritual needs. Please feel free to contact us anytime. We look forward to your presence again next week. And until then, a warm aloha to you all. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.
Good morning.
Hi, good to see you. I'm Alan.
And I'm Debbie. Thank you so much for this opportunity to say hello. We've missed seeing all of you at Temple, so we're really happy to be able to say hi to all of you today.
You know, we're living in a different time, different world today, but it actually really isn't, because we've been living like this throughout our lives, and it's with change. And in Buddhism, we expect change. And even with change, you know, if we follow the Buddhist way, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, it will help us throughout this crisis. For instance, there's suffering. We're suffering right now because of being locked down or restricted travel, not being able to see each other personally. But there's a way out of this, and it's through the Eightfold Path, with understanding what's going on. Using a right effort, a good effort to keep ourselves safe and keep everyone else safe. And by keeping our faith through meditation, we'll be able to get through this.
So there have been many opportunities during this pandemic. We've been able to stay connected in so many ways. For example, we have our regular Sunday Zoom services with our Betsuin Dharma School, and through that we've actually connected with other families in the Honolulu district, as well as the neighbor islands and the Oahu district. So it's been really fun to see everyone on Sundays. We also have had the opportunity to see a long lost Dharma friend, Pam, who lives on the mainland, and with her two sons, she joins us every Sunday. So it's been so remarkable, because if we were having our regular Sunday services at the temple, we wouldn't be able to connect with so many people from across the islands and across the mainland. We also were fortunate to have a successful Nembutsu seminar featuring the new bishop of the BCA, and we were able to have participants from across the islands as well as the mainland, and also Canada and Mexico. So these opportunities have been fantastic ways for us to share the Dharma and to make many new friends around the world. On a personal note, with my family, we've been able to have Zoom meetings with my dad, my sister and brothers, and my nieces and nephews, as well as my cousins. And within the past 6 months, I've probably seen and talked to my cousins on Zoom more often than I've seen them in the past 6 years. We've learned a lot about our family and the generations that came before us. And one fun fact is that my dad's father, my paternal grandfather, he was a part-time Buddhist minister, and I found out that he was one of the founders of Gardena Buddhist Temple in Southern California. So my Buddhist roots run really deep. So thank you so much for this opportunity again. And in closing, we'd like to share the 3 treasures in sign language, thanks to our friend Dave, who taught us sign language both at the lay convention and for our Dharma school. Okay. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namu Amidabutsu. Aloha. Bye.